All right, let's go. Let's roll.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Think Sacred podcast. My name is Zach. I'm here with my father, Phil. If you're new here, what we do is we kind of talk about more, I guess, overarching philosophical ideas, so to speak. But Phil usually takes up a biblical point of view, a theological point of view. And then I usually ask questions from the philosophical, nature-based perspective, mostly in order to kind of like see what kind of different answers we can come up with and what kind of different conclusions we can come to. And the last one was really interesting. Did you watch any of that back? The last one?
I listened to it.
Yeah, it was really interesting. We worked pretty hard on that. There are several times in the video you can see my mind is just like, what are we talking about? Oh my god. You know what I mean? Like it was pretty fun. It was a fun one, but I think we were really stretching on that one, weren't we?
Yeah, I noticed that actually at the time that I listened that you didn't have it on Spotify, so I listened to it on YouTube.
Oh.
So don't forget to upload there.
All right, I'll double check that.
Yeah.
Yeah, double check something happened there. So today I wanted to the funny thing is, sometimes we come up with a topic ahead of time, like a week ahead of time, or sometimes, but usually we just say what the topic is. And then today we didn't really have a topic. I was kind of racking my brain yesterday about what we were going to talk about, but then last night I ended up having like a bunch of dreams. I had like 3 dreams, and they were all vivid, and they were all pretty extreme. And so it was really interesting. We've kind of mentioned this before to each other. We've talked about it. You don't often have that many dreams.
Not really, no.
Yeah.
None that I can remember, at least.
And I know Mom has a lot of dreams, and I also have a lot of dreams. I have a lot of dreams, and my dreams are often very, very vivid. And so maybe we can talk a little bit about dreams, what the Bible says about dreams. Dreams are really important in the Bible. Joseph has dreams, obviously. Jacob's ladder, right? Jacob has his dream and everything like that. Dreams seem to pop up quite often. And so if we can talk about what they mean or not mean, you know what I mean? Like when they're like, are dreams from God? Are they not? Are they sometimes from God? Are they sometimes not from God? Like we can go through all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? And kind of what do you think about that?
Well, can we backtrack a little bit? I mean, did you have any comments on the last podcast? This is your podcast, so did you have any? Did we have any comments? But did you have any thoughts? I guess as well.
Oh, if you're asking for notes, I did notice in the very first, probably quarter before we got into it, and this is part of us working through it, by the way. But so I mean, no foul or anything, but at first you kind of thought, and you said repeatedly, when we do a sacrifice or when we sacrifice, we should have an outcome in mind. And then at some point in time, halfway through or a little bit before the halfway mark, you kind of pivoted and you mentioned that, well, there are 2 different types of sacrifices. There might be one where you are expecting an outcome, and then there might be one that's more of a, just so a worship or a praise, you know what I mean? As we were talking about that being a possible type of sacrifice where you're just doing it out of the thankfulness, for God and things like that. So did you catch that as well?
I did a little bit. I mean, I didn't mean to pivot on that. Obviously we were, talking about it and working through it. Right. And so I may have actually pivoted a bit. I'm not sure. But I think more than an outcome, and maybe as I rethink it, it's not so much you're looking for an outcome, but you're asking, why are you doing this? Right.
Yeah. Okay.
And so, like you said, if the outcome is the ultimate sacrifice being Christ and my trust in that, then the ultimate outcome is forgiveness of sins, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we're doing a sacrifice, because we actually talked kind of about two definitions of sacrifice, so to speak, right? There's things that we do with our time, right? That are hopefully that are unselfish, and we're doing things for others, right? That is a sacrifice. But I don't, maybe I'm probably a little bit wrong about worrying about the outcome of it, but sometimes you just do it because it's because it just needs to be done, right? You have a neighbor in need, you have a relative in need, you have whatever the case may be, and then so again, we can't sacrifice for our sins on behalf of being reconciled to God. We know that, but when Romans says, in lieu of all of these things, offer your bodies as living sacrifices, holy and acceptable to God. This is your reasonable worship. It's like, you work through that, and it's going to come different to other people, I guess is my point, right? But I think that whether we're doing it, and I actually suggested that we actually purposefully set time aside to do something. Like if we know there's a need out there, we don't skirt the need. We actually try to address the need. We're not going to be able to address everyone's need out there, but we ought to be available to take care of something that needs to be done, whether or not. And maybe I was dead wrong. Actually, the more I think about it, it's not so much the outcome, because you can actually do something really well-meaning for another person. That was the right thing to do. Not thinking that you thought, not thinking that that you're doing something and they don't even want it done, but something that is of need of a person, and you don't get any reward here on. What I mean? You ain't.
You and I have talked about that privately before, you know what I mean? In more ways than one. It's like, sometimes you do things for someone, and you shouldn't really expect anything.
So maybe it's that. Maybe it's not so much the outcome. It's the fact that I'm going to do it because I serve a God that did it for me. And therefore, he's asking us as the body of Christ to do things for others, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting that if you read through the gifts that we have, there's gifts of service.
I was just thinking that. I was literally just thinking that.
There's different gifts, and we think this gift that we have is, I don't know, doing some crazy, praising of God, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Those aren't, the gifts that are mentioned really have to do with the service to others, right?
Yeah.
How do we do that and not expect, expect maybe, an outcome that is not a favorable outcome, so to speak. So
if you're a good handyman or a woodworker or something like that, and there's a little old lady down the road that needs help with something, and you're the person that can actually go over there and help her fix her sink or whatever, you know what I mean, or fix her cupboard so it works, you know what I mean? I mean, that it might seem like a small thing, but that right there, sacrificing your time to go help the little old lady is probably a really big thing. It's probably bigger than most people realize or give it credit for.
Yeah,
I would say.
And this is not really a side note, and because anyway, I had a few thoughts about the last podcast, and there's a reason why I wanted to kind of just hit that first before we head on to the dream thing, but as we're doing this, as we're giving up of ourselves, right?
Yeah.
And we shouldn't expect anything back. Think about money. So I just want to throw this out there because sometimes we give to others that are in need. We should assess whether it's a need, and then we give up our money. Anytime that you give money, I said this before, anytime that you give money, whether it be a loan or whether it's just, or especially directly, don't expect anything back. Even if you give a loan, I don't think that anyone should, just a practical advice, don't give, or don't, even if you're loaning, don't loan anything to someone that you're not willing to lose.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because you're not there to make it anxious for yourself, right? You're giving someone something, and basically you're skirting your responsibility to pay your household bills and feed your kids, right?
Yeah.
That's your primary concern, especially as a man, I would say. But don't give money if you have other obligations that money needs to go for, and you're not willing to lose it if in fact you actually did a loan to someone.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Hopefully that makes sense.
Oh, that makes so much sense. It's not even funny. Yeah, that's really good stuff. Yeah.
The other thing, so I do have another thing, and then it has to do with the sacrifice. So I'm comfortable. So you continue to say on the last one, hey, let's go deeper. I'm trying to get more out of it.
Yeah.
I am satisfied with what I got out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think, so hopefully you are, but I'm very satisfied with knowing what sacrifices are, knowing that it's a type of shadow, knowing that it's God's ultimate sacrifice. Now, I think the deeper you were trying to get, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was like, why is it set up in that fashion, the world that we exist in, right? I don't know, but I'm satisfied I'm satisfied not worrying about that, or not thinking about that, or not knowing that, because sometimes you deal with what you have in existence just in life. You just say, what is this thing in life? And sometimes it's not the whys. You do want to know the whys in certain respects. I get that, but sometimes it's the fact that it's there, and you just have to appropriate within the circumstances that you're given, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that goes back to, we've talked about, there are just some things that will never understand. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? God obviously knows everything, right? And we, in our finite nature, can't know everything. So, I mean, I understand. It's just, what it is it's kind of just my favorite thing to do. You know what I mean? My favorite thing to do is to try to dive deeper and see if I can find something, that gives me that, wow, oh my gosh, I can't even believe that's true, or something. I've told you before, like when we, that first time that I thought of the first, and I brought this up many times, but the first time I thought of the first human that saw the ocean, right? The first human that saw the ocean, like that just blew my mind. Like I was literally like, wow, think about that. Think about that. You've never seen the ocean. You didn't know that an ocean could exist. And then you come across it, you're going to be dumbfounded. You're going to be like, what in the world is this? And the first person who spends the night out on the ocean, they can hear the whales singing for the first time. You know what I mean? You don't even know, like they don't even know what's out there. And then all of a sudden they see the first whale, come up out of the ocean. The first person that saw that, they just absolutely must have been in dumb awestruck at like, what is this?
And that's a whole different thing, because I think you love the ocean. It sounds like I love the ocean. I don't care what the weather is. The ocean is something to behold. You know what I mean? And then
misty Oregon morning, where with the rocky shore and everything like that, that's just as good as summertime beach in Southern California. You know what I mean? Either one. Is
I like swimming in the ocean. You know what I mean? So if I was to choose a time, it would be it would be in the summer in a swimmable location. But all that to say is that the Oregon coast. Anyway, it's just bottom line. Bottom line is, I don't want to get too far distracted, but look at the ocean. It's what is it? 70% of the Earth's surface is ocean.
Yeah.
And you start understanding what is in the ocean. The biggest mammal in the world is in the ocean.
That's right.
And these things are just it's so crazy. Yeah. And you look at that, and
the whale's heart is like the size of a car.
Is it
a small car? It's like the size of a small, Japanese car. Yeah.
And there are things are still found in the ocean, that are in the depths of the sea that we can't even fathom. Some very weird looking creatures down there. So anyway, it's just so cool.
So to go back to the analogy here, when we are doing philosophy and theology, and when we are digging through our minds, for me, that's an exploration. I am exploring into my ocean of my mind, you know what I mean? And I'm seeing what I can find, what I can picture, what I can understand about myself, about the world, about, how this reality is. And I get those same reactions, like I said, with the first guy that, the first guy that saw the ocean, or when the people go deep into the ocean and they see those strange, really strange fish and everything. It's basically the same thing in my mind as I am picturing, these different ideas and how they work and how they come together. When I find something that's a nugget of truth, it's kind of my favorite thing. Like I can't think of anything else really that I like more than that.
Yeah, I think nature is something to behold. And kind of, it's not a side note, but it's funny because I'm starting to realize in Scripture how much is really tied together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can, I'm doing a study, but actually the pastor's doing a study and he's going through the book of Acts. You know what I mean? And there are some things that Peter preached or Paul preached, you know what I mean, that are written down from Luke in the book of Acts, and I'm thinking that's exactly like what he's preaching. I'm thinking in my head, I'm tying it back to the doctrine stuff that Peter has put in his letter and Paul has put in his letters, right?
Yeah.
And thinking that, wait, these guys are, it's very cohesive. Their message in Acts to people, and their message written down, their own message written down in the epistles, and so for me, there's a lot of tie back to that. So I mean, I do have and maybe you're talking about this, I'm not sure, but I do believe that that things are so intertwined, I guess is my point. Whether you're talking about nature or whether you're talking about God's word, it's not a scatterbrain book. It's 66 books, and then you start realizing how much togetherness is within the books from the different authors.
Yeah, I mean, I think have you ever seen? There's like a picture online, like somebody put together a graph of like every verse in the Bible connected to every other verse in the Bible, where it's just like, and it's just this like amalgamation of rainbows of these arches that are all connecting.
I have not seen that. So,
yeah, it's just like I'll show it to you later, but it's this great little image that just shows like how connected every part of the Bible is to another part of the Bible. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's all over the place.
And I think you're right. I mean, my mind and your mind and hopefully other people's minds, they're looking at things. I'm looking at hopefully looking more at the verses, but we're trying to look at things and see how it connects with something else, and we're actually making sense of the world that we live in. Sense also of what is the truth too, because it's really back down, down to that. But but again, the ocean, wow, that's the amazing.
Yeah, that's the thing. If the things you find in your mind, if they aren't the truth, then they're no good. They don't, they don't hold the same wow-struckenness that the truth holds. The truth for some reason is just way better than fantasy. People talk about when they make movies and stories and things like that, and it's like life is way more interesting and way more crazy than anything you can find in the movies, because you hear these stories, like remember they made that movie The Revenant, where the guy's out in the woods, and he gets attacked by a bear, and his friends bury him, right? The story in real life is way crazier than like the Revenant thing, the movie, with Leonardo DiCaprio. Yeah. And then, they try to sensationalize it. But in real life, I mean, it was like it's crazy. Like you couldn't even imagine going through such a thing.
Well, think of what I think in general, I mean, I think we're gravitating toward this a lot because of the fact that, there's so many shows like this out there, but just reality TV, right?
Oh, yeah.
And whether it's, I mentioned this before, that Mom and I watch, People's Court and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
But think about 2020 or 48 Hours or those ones right there. And you cannot, to your point, even though usually in those ones it's pretty much atrocities that happen.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't even write a script better than reality. You can't, you know what I mean? And I don't mean better in the sense of it's all hunky dory, but I mean just more intense.
Yeah,
you know, it's
the appropriate word or the appropriate use of the word incredible. It's incredible how it actually works out, how life actually works out. Yeah. It's amazing. Yeah, and if you look at your life in those terms, you know, you can there's a lot of adventure to be had. You know what I mean? Getting out there and exploring the world. So, anyways, I don't know. That's pretty interesting. I mean, this all kind of connects back to the dream stuff because we're talking about mapping out our mind and everything. I wanted to talk to you about dreams today because, like I said, they're kind of important in the Bible, right? So I don't know if anybody really has any. Does anybody have any dreams before? The first person that they mentioned having dreams is Jacob, right? Jacob's the first person that has like a really big dream. Or did Abraham had it? Abraham had a dream, right? Did he have a dream that was specifically like from God, or
I don't,
or was every time that he?
It's a dog at the door. Okay,
Oh, yeah.
I was wondering what that was.
I can't even hear it, but
okay.
But all of when Abraham's interactions with God, you know, were those all direct, or were any of them through a dream? Because then Jacob has his, and Jacob is. You know, he falls asleep on top of a rock or something like that, right? And then has
his pillow was a rock.
Yeah,
That's what it is. You know, so I think maybe we can kind of divide into three things, right? I don't know of any place where Abraham had a dream. So actually, let me talk about the three things I'm thinking about, right? God directly coming to someone here on earth, right? Yeah. In a what they call a theophany, right? I think is what they call it.
Okay.
But where someone appears, right, and it's as though they can actually just interact with that person, eat, and they're fed, right? You know,
like when the angels come, into Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, exactly. So we have that direct interaction of God coming down and talking to Abraham, for example, right? Okay. Yeah. Then we have the dreams where Joseph had a dream, right? And his brothers hated him for the dream, right? Yeah. And then the third thing I think is where people in the Bible had visions, right? I don't know how much you can separate the dream and the vision, but the way I kind of look at it is that a dream is when you're asleep and then you have that vision, I guess, and maybe there's a difference. I don't know.
Yeah.
A vision is basically like John on the island of Patmos having the vision of the revelation, right? Where there's no indication that it was a dream when he was asleep, right? Yeah. It was God actually showing him a vision and what is going to take place. So I don't know. Maybe I don't know if that sets the stage because again, I haven't studied this per se, but there's definitely things in the Bible. That's how I would look at it, I guess, for now until we work through this and maybe it's different. That's one thing. The second thing, though, is most important, I think, when you're talking about because you can. I put my I really if you hear me, if you've heard me in the past, I do not like the churches right now in a general sense, right? Yeah. Because and I'm talking, this is an example, and this is common. Preacher on stage says, "Hey, I'm going to preach this. God told me what to preach, and therefore I'm going to preach it."
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, I mean, I am absolutely when a pastor says that, I am on edge thinking that they didn't hear from God. That is my first thought. They didn't hear from God because Peter tells Timothy, preach the word in season and out of season. He doesn't say, hey, here's a vision that's going to come down to you, and then you're going to preach from that vision. So I would say that if there is a dream or if there is a vision, the Old Testament talks about things that someone has said, right? Let's just say a prophet, right?
Yeah.
If the prophet says something, now unfortunately, you have to look in the future or look back, right? You have to say, did it come to pass, right? That's the first criteria. That's only the first criteria. So the first criteria is, okay, if it did come to pass, then they could be a prophet. But the second criteria is they're not leading you astray to other gods, right? People miss that, but that is in the Old Testament where if the vision comes to pass and they're not leading you to other gods, then God has spoken to that person to give to the people. That makes sense?
But there's also the possibility that's just a coincidence.
It could be,
if somebody's out there just guessing all the time, I mean, eventually they're going to guess something right.
Oh yeah, there's people talking about the election and all, like God told me blah blah blah, but so and so's going to get elected, and I'm thinking you got a 50-50 chance that that's going to be right in the first place. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? And then most of those people were dead wrong when Biden got in office. You know what I mean? It's like, if you guys would have shut your mouth, no, I was kidding.
Actually went out and voted.
Yeah,
no,
we would have had a better person. No, but
I'm joking.
Yeah, but so yeah, you're right. Like you're projecting, and then and then what they do. It's funny because what they do is they'll say, they'll continue to say God told me, and then they'll use the ones they basically they threw out there that were correct because of the fact that they took a 50-50 chance stab at something, whatever it was, and they use that as God is speaking to them. Yet these people are leading or pointing us to a God that doesn't exist.
Yeah. There's also self-fulfilling prophecies, right? Where somebody's just saying, my day's going to be bad, my day's going to be bad, my day's going to be bad. And then they make their day bad. You know what I mean? And therefore they're like, oh, look, I was right at the beginning of the day. I said my day was going to be bad. You know what I mean? That's a minor example, but there's I'm sure there's examples like that too, where someone's claiming to be a prophet and then they make it happen, whatever, or it's something that's so obvious, you know what I mean, that it's hardly worthy of prophecy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, anyways, I mean that's kind of one thing here, and it's all really important stuff, right? But then, so to get back, so now I think that covers one of your three subjects there. I guess my main focus would be the prophecy one. I guess we want to touch on the vision one real quick, I guess. Or having or
it's your podcast, however you want to do it.
Yeah.
You initially you said dreams. So
I want to focus on the dream part because so I have dreams all the time, right?
Okay.
And they kind of, it befuddles me how vivid they can be sometimes, right? There are some times where they are so vivid that while you're in them, they're nearly indistinguishable from this world, right? I mean, they are a little fantastical, you know what I mean, of course. But while you're in them, the dream follows all of its own rules, you know what I mean? So it's a complete world, that you're in, and that you're doing whatever and exploring, or just whatever it is you happen to be doing in the dream, you know what I mean? But the fact that it's so complete is so strange. It's like, why in the world would God create us in a manner that we would have dreams like that? You know what I mean? What like possible benefit would humanity have for having dreams in that manner, especially if they don't come from God, if they're just something that we just naturally have all the time? Because lots of people have dreams, and so you can't. I would almost wager to say that not every dream, although once I'm gonna get caught up on this idea of God's sovereignty here, you know what I mean? So I mean, if you believe God is fully sovereign, then I guess all dreams do come from God. But then again, you know what I mean, is people have lots of different dreams, and sometimes dreams are scary, sometimes they're, strange, or, I'm sure they could possibly be sinful in nature as well. You know what I mean? So where does the dream come from? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I don't. Um, Maybe you can answer that because I really haven't thought about that, and it really doesn't cause me too much angst. The fact that I'm even when I do have dreams, like what is the reason I'm having the dreams, and is there a meaning to the dream? I think is what some people start surmising. I mean, I think sometimes dreams are just dreams. I could be wrong. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And I think that there
Yeah.
are circumstances in general when it comes to just life here on Earth that again, God being sovereign, he allows things, right? There's sovereign doesn't necessarily mean he's doing it. He's interjecting, but there are things that God allows. Period. Whether you and again, what I said before is that even if you're free will Baptist or you're all the way Calvinist, I think pretty much everyone within that spectrum um, that is true. They're in a true Christian church. I think all those people would say God is sovereign, right? It's just a matter of can I choose God versus God choosing me type of thing, and anywhere in between. But all that to say is that everything. I guess maybe again, I'm working through this that everything, every circumstance that we go through, um, whether it be in sleep, whether it just be any something that came up, any circumstance that we go through, God always wants us to test those things, right? I don't know if He always wants us to test those things. We're going to test and then we're going to hold fast to that which is true is what we're going to do. So God basically will allow truth in, he'll allow error in, to our minds, to what people say to us anytime, whether it be a dream or not. And then God wants us to use our spirit and our intellect and our knowledge of his word to say, you know what I mean? I need to keep hold of that and hold fast to that which is good, or I just need to toss it aside because it's not true.
Here's another thing I just thought as you were saying that. Dogs have dreams as well. Like I have a dog that when he's laying on the couch, you know what I mean, he's asleep, he starts having dreams, and you can tell he's having a dream because he starts interacting, you know what I mean, and in a dreamlike fashion with whatever he's seeing. So interestingly enough, dreams occur in nature as well in that manner. Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, does the dream tell you something about yourself, maybe, or because what you just brought up there is when you're talking about, God introducing errors and God introducing, people saying the wrong thing to you or whatever it is that you come across in your day to day life. You know what I mean? And so, is dreams sometimes explaining something about yourself to you? You know what I mean? Is it possibly telling, how your mind works, or maybe the things that you think of, or maybe the things you concentrate on, or maybe the thing, because a lot of times what happens in dreams is I often, and I'm pretty sure this is true with everybody, at least when I talk to mom, it's true as well. You see friends and family, and a lot of times I have dreams of basically when we lived in California, living in that house. uh, I just often have dreams of us living in that house. It's a very common thing for me to do. I dream about, you and mom and sisters, and we're all living together in the house, you know what I mean? And usually it goes from there and things are happening, you know what I mean? Whatever it happens to be. But yeah, so yeah, how much of it is it just what's I guess the common thing that's like just going through our minds. But then I have crazy dreams like I did last night. I had some really, really crazy dreams that were very, like, looking back now, they're very abstract in their ideas, you know what I mean? And they don't really make a whole lot of sense for like what's going on in my life. um so yeah, see, I'm not really for sure where to go from here, with this idea. I mean, I have these dreams. They can be, like I said, they can be slice of life, or they can be extreme and psychological. They could be joyful or horror. You know what I mean? They could be you know super, super vivid, or sometimes not as vivid. Sometimes I forget them immediately, or sometimes I hold on to them for, well, forever. Sometimes I have repeat dreams where I'm dreaming of the same place or doing the same thing. That's the biggest one that I have is I have these dreams where I'm in the army, right? And I'm going through training. And those dreams are so common. I actually have a name for them. I've given them a name. that little Bella over there.
Yeah, what is she over there on the ground?
A little, yeah.
Okay.
Anyways, but you say I have these.
I'm listening. I'm gonna just go give her something to lay on.
Yeah. No, I have these repeat dreams as well, and so it's like, what is that? Why does that exist? Why does God allow us to dream, or what is, or is there anything of value there that I should be paying attention to, or should I just be enjoying them? Is it just what you do? You just enjoy dreams because they just give you a rest from the day-to-day life? But then once again, when you have the horror dreams or the stressful dreams or anything like that, obviously you don't, you don't like those. So once again, do they tell you something about your psyche or about who you are or something like that? See where I'm at? I'm just kind of stuck in that general area of like, what to do with these. What do you do with them?
I don't know what you do with them. I mean, for me, again, when I do have dreams, they don't make any sense, really. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Now I may have dreams that with people in them or people and circumstances, and then if I have those dreams and I wake up, it makes no sense in this life, right? What I mean by that is that it may be in the dream someone is doing something, I don't know, doing something to me, and I'm thinking to myself, this person doesn't have that personality to do those things, so what am I anxious about? You know what I mean? Mm. And for me, when I do have dreams, it is probably more of an anxious feeling than, not solitude, but more anxious, but the anxiousness within the dream doesn't make any sense. But who knows? I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm anxious about something.
I mean, that might be interesting, because there's a lot of dreams of mine that I really, really enjoy. They're really fun. Like there's like crazy stuff going on, but I'm doing like there's like some where maybe I just watched an action movie, and so I'm having this dream where basically I'm an action star or something like that, like running around a city, driving a fast car, shooting guns out the window or something like that.
Yeah, you're in the car with Vin Diesel.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? So if you have a dream like that, it's super, super fun. And I like those dreams, and like I want to have more of those dreams, you know what I mean, so to speak. And so have you ever had like a joyful dream? Are all your dreams, because you just kind of said that your dreams are anxious, so have you ever had a dream that was joyful or was like just exhilarating or a happy experience for you or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't remember my dreams really that much, but I know that I've had dreams where it's more exhilarating, you know what I mean, where it's just it's very out there. It's very colorful and very serene, right? Okay, so I've had those too. So
okay.
But what to make of it? I mean, I just I can guess what to make of it, I guess, but it would just be be surmising, and
so back to the Bible then. If we're talking about the Bible, does the Bible say anything about day-to-day dreams, or is the only times that dreams are mentioned, are they just mentioned in very specific special circumstances in which God is interacting with people?
So if we're talking about visions and dreams, right? Because I'll just kind of lump the two together. If we're talking about visions and dreams, they're when they're documented, I should say, and documented for the purpose of us, trying to understand what the heck is going on. Jacob's ladder, you mentioned, right?
Yeah.
John's vision on Patmos, you know what I mean? Peter's vision, where it was a specific vision about what's clean and unclean, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So and it really had to do with eating, but also had to do with the Gentiles, right? Not putting roadblocks in the way for their salvation. But if you look at here's what I'm getting at, I guess is my point. I just want to kind of lay this out there. So if you look at the times where even the Old Testament, New Testament, it doesn't matter, where these people had dreams, it's not like they had dreams every week that were recorded, or every year that were recorded. You know what I mean? They were few and far between, right? So I would say that at the outset.
Yeah.
So if you have
Joseph has multiple dreams, but like you're saying, it's not in a general like everyday fashion or something like that. It's not. Yeah, he has one when he's a kid. He has one when he's in jail. You know what I mean? They're very, very far apart from each other.
Yeah, and then there's no record of him having it when he was in Egypt for a couple decades at least. Yeah. You know what I mean? And ruling as the second in command. You know.
Yeah.
So I just want to kind of set that groundwork because it's not common, I guess, that they're written because we want to take everything and say, well, in light of this, what does it mean? I don't know what it means. You know what I mean? So. But the Bible, again, I think I'm just back to anytime someone has a vision, a prophecy, because a prophecy could be construed as a vision, right? God told me this, or I'm writing it down. Jeremiah's writing it down. Isaiah's writing it down, right?
Yeah.
Usually those are, they're few and far between, but they are, but in the Old Testament, especially, they are for the purpose of trying to bring the people back to God because they've strayed and bring repentance in, I guess. So what is it? Anyway, working through this, I don't know if it's really much more than that. You know what I mean? And I don't know if we can, make sense of a lot of things, whether it be visions and dreams, or even just something that comes up in your daily life. You know what I mean? That may be a little bit of an anomaly. Let's just say, can anyone make sense of everything that happens? Go, hey, what's the reason for this? Oh, I get it.
Gosh, I
don't
love.
think so.
I'm so glad you said that. When I'm talking with Corey in our day to day, like when we're just doing our normal thing, I'll bring up a lot of times, like incidences that happen. They sound so fantastical when you say them out loud. Like, so one of them is Prince at the Super Bowl. We've talked about this and I've showed you the video, right? Prince is at the Super Bowl, and the story goes like this for everybody that's listening. He's supposed to play Purple Rain at the halftime show, and they're in Miami, Florida.
Yep, they're in Miami,
right?
Yep.
And they have an open dome stadium, and so he says to the producers, he's like, when I start playing it, I want it to start raining. And they're like, what are you talking about? Like, it's an open dome stadium. It's supposed to be sunny. You know what I mean? There's not supposed to be any rain.
And it never has. I think they said that it never has rain any halftime show ever.
Yeah, or something.
I think there's something about that too.
It's so fantastical. Yeah, the more you hear, once again, this goes back to life being stranger than than movies and TV and fiction. You know what I mean? But anyways, so he actually starts. He says to the producers, this is supposedly what he said. He said, okay, well, I'll just make it rain myself then. That's supposedly. I'm not saying that's exactly what happened, but that's how the story goes, right? And then he goes out there and he plays the halftime show, and as he starts playing, it starts raining. By the end of it, he's soaking wet. You know what I mean? The whole crowd's soaking wet. You know what I mean? Because he started playing Purple Rain, and for some reason that happened. So I bring that story up to Corey, and we're like, "What is that? What is that? How did that happen? It's too big of a coincidence to just be a coincidence. You can't just say, it's too fantastical. It's too crazy. It's like, come on, why in the world would that just be what happened? You know what I mean? And maybe it did. Maybe it just happened. Maybe that just happened to be like that. But the story lines up too well. You know what I mean?
There's a coolness factor when he actually played Purple Rain. You have to admit that, right?
Yeah,
I mean, amazing musician. And Purple Rain is his, to me, is by far his best song, right?
Yeah.
But why did it happen? I don't know. I can't even guess, you know what I mean, why it happened. But it happened, and whether now could he call and change the weather?
Yeah, you doubt it.
I would say
that.
no.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like only God can do that. Like Jesus calmed the waves, right? You know what I mean? Or and it says that God reigns on the righteous and the unrighteous. Talking about not rain bad events, but just actually rain for necessities like crops. Like he's taking care of everyone, type of thing.
Yeah.
All that to say is that I just look at that. I don't look at that and go, why did it happen? I just look at the coolness factor of it. It is totally cool. Now whether or not that verbal thing took place, I have no clue.
Yeah,
it's just a coolness factor that it's the first time it actually rained in halftime, and it happened to be when someone had rain in the name of the song. You know what I mean? The title of the song. So it's really cool.
Yeah. So I mean, that's interesting. I don't know. I do applaud you for just enjoying the coolness factor. Me, I want to know why.
Thinking about that though, so here's back to what I used to do in supply chain, right? Uh-huh. And there are things that we always tried to do in supply chain when it came to efficiency. Right.
Yeah, of course.
Part of doing efficiency, you have Six Sigma, you have lean processes and different things like that. But a good portion of that is asking the why. Like, you know what I mean? Why are the boxes for e-commerce? Why do we have these boxes? Why are they actually in this location? How far does that person who's packing have to go to get the box, right? Like how many steps? Literally, is it 2 steps? Is it 5 steps? How far do they have to do? What do they have to do to get the boxes? So asking the whys is something that is ingrained in a lot of people. Yeah. Right.
It has to be my favorite question.
Yeah. And you're gonna that there's going to be a but here. But I like that. Sometimes God just does things, and it's okay. It's okay not knowing why. It's okay just resting in Him and His will and His sovereignty, right?
Yeah.
And applying, maybe applying God's word to how we're going to behave in these circumstances, right? So back to the sacrifice that we talked about last time. It could be, maybe I probably put it out wrong. I'm backtracking a little bit, but maybe it's not so much the why am I doing this and understanding the outcome, but maybe it's the why am I doing this is because God instructed me to do this. You know what I mean? Or to put myself out there for others, right? It's a good, noble thing. Now, am I doing it? Am I doing it for efficiency's sake? Am I doing it for a specific outcome? Yeah, I hope that person, if they know Christ, that they would grow in a deeper relationship. If they don't know Christ, this would prove that basically God has their best interest in mind when it comes to what He wants for them, right? And they may come to know Him as a result. But I don't know if we should be looking at it like that. So much so than just doing what we're asked to do in this life. Hopefully that makes sense. So
yeah.
Because why is ingrained in us? It really is, especially people in operations.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it is my favorite question because I don't really care. I don't really care who. I don't really care what. You know what I mean? I mostly just care why. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. It doesn't matter where. It could be anywhere. You know what I mean? It could be any when, when doesn't matter. When and where really don't matter at all. The other two you could say are okay, but why? Yeah, why really is the biggest one. Why, or at least for me it is.
Yeah.
For me, it really is.
I don't. Yeah. Again, it's not to say, hey, don't ask the question at all. Yeah, I would never say that, right? But I think sometimes we don't know and we settle on not knowing.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And we're comfortable. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to be comfortable not knowing. Right?
Yeah.
How can we be comfortable not knowing when God just doesn't give us the answer to the why?
Well, I will say, really, in the last few years, I really have become comfortable. Well, usually I come into a comfort, and mostly it comes to do with my idea of the God's sovereignty. There is I just come into the comfort of just he'll take care of whatever needs to be taken care of, and everything that happens is because he wants it to happen. So I come to that, and I find a lot of peace in that.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's where I really settle. And I think I'd like to make the distinction, you know what I mean, that when I am asking the question why, it's not making me anxious, you know what I mean? I'm not fighting or struggling with it against my inner peace to figure out why. I'm trying to figure out why, because I think it might be a mix of, because it is cool. We asked back at the Prince, the Prince halftime show thing, and I think I asked why, because I do want to know, why it's so cool and why it worked, you know what I mean? As opposed to, it's not like it doesn't bother me one way or the other whether I ever figure it out or not.
I wonder. I wonder though if sometimes when we know the why, we'll be more disappointed. You know what I mean? Like a magician, right?
Yeah.
So the magician is doing his thing, and he's such a good musician that it blows your mind what they do.
Yeah.
And yet there's maybe some videos out there that say, here's how they're doing this trick. It's like, I don't know if I want to know that sometimes. You know what I mean? Like, because
so
you just have, you have the coolness factor, and it's just awesome that they fooled us in such a way. And sometimes it's like it's a letdown. It's like, oh, that's how they did it. I don't know. I'm just.
Well, it's really interesting. There's two things I thought about. I thought about Penn and Teller, right? Because one of their parts of their acts is they give away a lot of their secrets. They do show a lot of their stuff, and you're still in awe because of how skilled they are, or the fact they were able to pull it off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's one. But then I was also thinking, I've been playing guitar with Corey. I've been teaching him guitar, right? And there is this thing that happens where you do get imposter syndrome, I think is what they call it, where you realize what the trick is, or you realize what a trick is, and you kind of realize like the overarching thing that everybody does, and then you realize everybody is just doing the same thing. There's often, like, basically all of 70s and 80s and 90s rock is all based off of one thing. It all goes back to that. We've talked about him before, what is his name, Johnson, right? The Devil at the Crossroads dude. Yeah. And it really does come down to like 95% of rock and roll is just coming from him in a straight line. Like it's really interesting. As you learn about it. It's like blues music, and then rock and roll, and then it just like it evolves in a straight line.
Blues influence rock and roll is amazing.
Oh yeah.
Rolling Stones do that. Many. We've talked about that before, but that's where and things are interrelated. Here's maybe I don't know. Again, just a relational thing. I don't know if this is a relational thing, but if you're doing, let me ask you something. So, if I'm watching, like, there's this girl, and she is young, like, she is doing the drum to some Led Zeppelin song, when the levee breaks, I think, or can't remember. She does a couple different ones, and it's amazing, right?
Yeah.
My question is, and I don't know, like, my question is that what that person knows, or can they go out there and be a drummer for a band and improvise? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Are there differences between being able to mimic, and can you take that into a creative session if you're actually and asked to be part of a band and really do well?
Yeah, and that's the difference between what I'm showing Corey and when we're playing guitar. is I am showing him how. I'm not teaching him how to memorize a song and just play over it. I'm teaching him the backbone, the theme of all the songs, so that way he can play over any song at any point in time, because that's what I learned to do, right? Is the memorization is interesting, and there is obviously a really high skill for that, right? It's like, and it's an awe. It's when we go and we watch a performance at a like at a concert hall, and it's like they're playing some classical music or something, that like on violin and whatnot. Those people are just reading music and playing it in perfect time, so it's a really high skill, right? And that is very, very impressive, not to take away from them. Very impressive. But then there is another thing, though, and this is what those blues players did, is they would go, and this is what that Johnson guy did. He would go into a bar, and he would just kind of play what he wanted to play, and he'd even be experimenting in the process of playing at that bar. Because there's stories of where he'd like get up, you know what I mean? Like he'd do a set, he'd get up, and then he'd never play a certain song ever again because he didn't like it or something like that. Or there's stories where he'd play a song, and then he'd go to the next bar, and the bar would be similar, but then it'd be also very different. A good example is there's that one band that sings that song, I want you to want me, I want you, I need you to need me. Yeah. The version that you hear on the radio is a live version from them in Japan when they were touring. The album version is very, very different, and it is not as good. The reason that song is so good is because they were playing it differently while they were out in the concert, and they had the crowd was singing with them, was singing certain parts with them, and so it's really funny. It sounds completely different if you hear the album version and you hear the radio version. You know what I mean? They're just songs. So yeah.
Was it Cheap Trick live at Budokan or something like that?
Yeah,
I can't remember, but okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how this all kind of connects. We kind of went down the rabbit hole. We kind of got away from the dream stuff. Yeah, just because I don't know. I guess there's just nowhere really to go. That, I mean, we just kind of flowed into things like art and circumstances, and
I think it's okay. I think it's okay not knowing why. I mean, I'm comfortable. I'm not always comfortable, but I think at times I'm pretty comfortable not knowing why. Right?
Yeah.
Sometimes sometimes I'm praying for individuals or whatever the case may be, and they're in a certain circumstance. Sometimes I may ask why, like what in the world did that, why is that person the way they are? You know what I mean? It could be that.
Totally brought up in my mind when the blind man, remember, with Jesus, and that's what the disciples asked him is that, they asked him who sinned, but they were asking like, why is this guy like this, is what they were saying. What did this guy do that caused his blindness? What did his parents do that caused his blindness? They were essentially asking why. They were essentially asking why. I mean you phrased the question with a what, but I mean, I don't know how you would phrase it with a why, but that's what they are asking. They are asking, why is this guy like this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's kind of funny. Yeah, and God answers that it is because it's supposed to be. No, I don't know, because I'm here to do my thing, and I'm going to do it right now. No. Pretty
much. I mean that's what it was. Hopefully we'll again, like in the last one I talked a couple times about being introspective, right? I don't want us to be so introspective that basically it's all about us. I don't misunderstand what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, for sure.
It is, you know what I mean? That it's me. Introspective just meaning, like, are we comfortable with not knowing why? That could be introspective, right? Why aren't we comfortable with why? Can I be at peace in all circumstances, not knowing what the outcome's going to be, not knowing the why of why I'm here, not knowing these things? Can I still be at peace, right? which I think is, it's back to, it is back to a little bit of, God. Sometimes his sovereignty is there and he wills certain things to happen to us.
Yep.
Whether it be good, bad, or just, just happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we just have to be at peace, even if sometimes he doesn't give us an immediate answer to the why.
Oh, okay. You said something. Oh, that sounded interesting. That sounded like
the dogs are breaking things.
Yeah, sounds like your dog got into something.
Go ahead.
You said something interesting though. You talking about you said sometimes God just lets things happen. This might be where our difference between the God sovereignty and the free will comes from. Because, and this might go back to why I asked the why, and why I believe there's an answer to all the whys. I believe there is an answer to all the whys, right? So I believe that nothing just happens. That nothing just happens. Everything is because God has willed it to happen. You know what I'm saying?
I agree that everything happens in the purview of God's will. Totally agree with that. I don't think that means that we are going to know the whys. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
sometimes we know. Sometimes circumstances happen, and let's just say it's a very stressful circumstance. It's something that was not that we didn't even see coming. Let's just say absolutely didn't see coming. Right?
Yeah.
We might not know the why, but God still wants us to rest in Him.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
so how do we rest and trust in Him, not knowing the why? I think sometimes it could be as much as that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, I'm not talking about dreams, right? So I think I kind of got away from that a little bit, but it just has to do with, resting in Him and being at peace, whether or not we understand what's going on. Sometimes the more we understand the whys, the more anxious we become too. So it's not like it's going to give us peace knowing, right? We think it will. Sometimes it doesn't.
Oh, well, that's a good point. That's a really good point. That last one that you said right there. Yeah. I could see that one. I'd have to work through to find examples of it or something like that. But yeah, you might be right. See, I mean, that comes down to the question of evil, like why does evil exist? We had, we probably got to wrap up here in just a second, but that goes back to like evil art. Why does evil art exist? And things like that. Right. My gut reaction, when we were talking was to say that, well, evil art exists for a reason or something like that. And so evil exists for a reason, and things that happen out in the world that are evil happen for a reason. This goes back to like I said, everything happens for kind of where I end up going to usually with that type of idea. Anyways, we can wrap it up, and I mean, I think despite our trying to fumble and wrestle with this, I think we had a lot of good points to talk about.
Do you have any suggestion now for next time, or do you want to just pop it on me like you did today?
Yeah.
If you don't, it's fair, right?
I really wish we could sit down and watch a movie. I really wish we could sit down and watch either Moby Dick or Seventh Seal.
Things are slowing down with the weather. So if anyone out there has a comment in terms of what you want us to maybe talk about as well, I mean, we could entertain that too.
Yeah,
what do you think?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if you happen to be free on the next day we record, which should be Monday, if you happen to not have anything to do, and if you do, then we'll do something else. But if you happen to have nothing to do, let's set aside 2 hours before we record. Let's watch a movie.
Okay.
Let's either watch Moby Dick or Seventh Seal.
Okay, I'm game. I'm game.
Sounds good. All right. Thanks very much, guys. Yeah, comment, subscribe, especially if you're still around. We'd love to hear from you. We love hearing comments. Back in some of our previous episodes, we had a lot of comments, and we loved going through them. So we'd like to do that again. If anybody else has anything to say or add or anything like that. So thanks very much.
Thank you.
See ya.